Alright, and welcome back to the Den for another episode of Rewind and Renerd, where we go back in time, all the way to before the turn of the millennium. That's right, the dreaded old Y2K.
Ooh.
To review our favorite shows and movies and things from nerddom. Getting down with Stargate SG-1. Tonight going through episodes 9 through 10. Thor's Hammer, Torment of Teal'c, Bloodlines, Fire and Water. Some great old episodes here, and always remember, ladies and gentlemen, carve the rune flow, read the might, see the rainbow, test the white. Not actually a whole lot goes on in the 4 episodes here tonight. Thor's Hammer starting out. Teal'c begins to learn the meaning of "get out of there."
Right. I mean, I really don't think that was an option.
I just love how, you know, he gets that shout at him like multiple times in the episode, and he just I don't know.
Yeah, with me, I was always like, O'Neill, dude, like he's clearly stuck. Like,
yeah.
Get out of there, like, dude, get him out of there. Like,
I know, right? Like, especially when he tries to tackle him out of the hammer's beam as soon as they come through the Stargate. And Daniel, like, this is one of those instances where Daniel, you just need to listen the first time around, right? There doesn't need to be any kind of repetition. We don't need to tell you twice. You know, just
right.
You need when you're told to dial, you need to dial.
Yeah.
Also, Teal'c speaks his first cliche in this episode. That's a big old mile marker we have. Are you thinking of the same strategy as I?
Yes.
Essentially what happens in this episode is that SG-1 finds their way to Samaria, a place believed to be the world of the Asgard. Daniel thinks this might be a race of aliens that might be opposed to the Goa'uld. And upon arriving in Samaria, Teal'c is attacked by Thor's Hammer, which is what initially drew them to Samaria in the first place. Now, as we said earlier, Teal'c and O'Neill do get imprisoned by the beam. O'Neill tries to tackle Teal'c out of the beam, but it teleports them both into the prison. Gerwin, a Sumerian, takes Carter and Daniel to find Kendra, who used to be a Goa'uld until she was freed by Thor's Hammer in the prison that Teal'c and Daniel are sent to. While Kendra leads Carter and Jackson to the prison, Teal'c and O'Neill must find their way to the Hall of Mohair to escape the prison. They encounter an Unus, the first one, believed to be from the same primordial waters as the Goa'uld and the first hosts, and some of the most terrifying hosts that they've ever had, and are forced to kill him using Thor's hammer because after filling the guy full of 3 clips from an MP5, he's still coming at him. Teal'c equates him to be a vampire of legend from Earth and believes that the Unus used to be a nightmare, essentially until, he just now encountered one. After the Unus is killed, they're forced to destroy Thor's hammer so that way they can free Teal'c. And when Gerwin makes a comment at the end of the episode of, what will they do now that Thor's hammer is destroyed, O'Neill says, "Oh, I think you'll be alright. The Goa'uld don't realize that the hammer's been destroyed." Epic foreshadowing.
Right.
I do want to point out that Gerwin was played by Tamsin Kelsey. I think she does a pretty fine job, and she does get to be a returning character. Kendra, unfortunately, this is the only episode that we get to see her in. So do you have
I liked her.
You like Kendra?
Yeah. One thing I was gonna say, I don't know, this may have been obvious and it just went over my head, were you making a joke
About the Hall of Mohair?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what O'Neill says.
Yeah, okay.
Let's get over to this Hall of Mohair or whatever it's called. It's supposed to be. It's actually pronounced the Hall of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
Mjolnir. I've heard it pronounced multiple different ways.
For sure, and that's something that you're gonna come across with all like the ancient history type stuff. There's always different pronunciations. Especially with like Norse, there's like the archaic pronunciations and stuff. But that was just something that for whatever reason, I just never connected the dots until I watched it this time, and I was like, oh man, it's the Hall of Mjolnir.
Yes,
it's like the Hall of Mjolnir.
Yeah, that the hologram is a bit boisterous. I'm actually kind of surprised that with the Asgardian technology, they never had some kind of thing in there that, oh, hey, if you figured it out, we can actually kind of respond in a slightly different way to you, because, it references the treaty between, the Protected Planets treaty between the Asgard and the Goa'uld, which is something we don't learn about till later. Are you going to bounce into the party here?
Yes. I'm in loading screen.
Oh. But outside of setting up setting up some stuff for later, primarily the Asgard race as future allies for SG-1. Again, not a whole lot goes on in this episode. Just kind of some, I don't know, I guess fleshing out of the universe, right?
Yes. That's what I noticed a lot about all of these, or not all of it. Like, I guess the thing I got most out of this set of 4 episodes was that it was just like a lot of exposition, a lot of like just setting things up. It's like, oh, okay, so that's a thing. Okay, so this is a thing. Like, if it's your first watch.
Yeah, like I said, just kind of helping to flesh out the universe, give some perspective to what's going on outside of just SG-1 trying to hunt down Shari and Skara. Pretty much all the episodes tonight kind of do that.
Yes.
Now, in terms of fleshing out the universe and giving some context to things, that actually kind of takes us into the next episode, the Torment of Tantalus. Now,
hey, I don't know if you are, sorry, I was trying to leave you hanging, I was trying to get some links going. But before we jump into Torment of Tantalus,
yeah, what you got?
There was a couple of little notes.
Maybe I've just seen the show too much, but I didn't have too many notes outside of basically setting up for the Asgard later on. What notes do you have?
I didn't have a whole lot.
Well, what you got? Lay it on us.
Alright, I did notice just kind of a little thing. This Thor's Hammer was the first episode that had not only indication, but proof that the host of a Goa'uld does live on and can, in some instances, influence the Goa'uld.
Very true. That is good news for Daniel, because that's a big thing of trepidation he's facing, is whether or not anything of the host does survive.
Giving you instructions.
Let's see. Because with Kendra, not only is she no longer a Goa'uld, she talks about how she taunted her symbiote into going to the planet in the first place, hoping for a quick death, but finding her salvation, in a sense.
Very true.
Also, we noticed that the host can continue to use Goa'uld technology without having the symbiote.
You are absolutely correct, because that does set up something else later on, and I completely missed that for my notes. Very nice catch. Now, why is that important for later?
Like specifically?
Yeah.
Because people are always getting attacked and taken over and implanted with Goa'uld. Then once they figure it out. some people get them out of their heads, and then they can utilize the tech against the Goa'uld.
And I have to say that would be a very powerful thing if you can use your enemy's advanced technology against them. So,
yeah.
Of course, the SGC would be interested in that.
Oh yeah. Also, there was one note that I made, and this happens in almost every episode, but this was the episode where I was like, oh yeah, this. I just wrote, never aim down sights, parentheses, spray and pray.
Oh, when they're fighting the Unas?
Yeah. And also, for those that are not aware, the Unas is voiced by none other than the great James Earl Jones.
I did not. Did that pop up in X-Ray?
X-Ray?
Yeah, on Amazon Prime.
Oh, like when it shows the actors and stuff?
Yeah, I don't remember seeing
I don't know.
that.
I didn't see if it did. That's just something that I've known for a while.
Oh, well, if I missed that, I then feel real bad because I love the voice of James Earl Jones, Darth Vader.
Yes.
Which, speaking of Vader, James Earl Jones unfortunately passed away several years ago, and recently the man that did the acting inside of the suit also passed away. So, sad year. We've completely lost Vader at this point.
Right. Yeah, we now only have the next gen Vader and Hayden Christensen.
But is he really Vader?
I mean, he's the next gen Vader. I mean,
he is Vader. Is he Vader,
I mean,
or is he Anakin Skywalker? See, like that.
Well, I mean, he played, but I mean, in like there's movies where he plays Vader.
He never actually played Vader. He played Anakin Skywalker. Vader's the guy in the big suit.
Yeah, I know, but does he not ever play Vader?
No.
He never wears the suit?
No, he never wears the suit.
Okay, well, never mind then.
At least,
as far
as I've ever known, he is not actually in the suit at the end of episode 3.
Okay, I was unaware of that.
I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I am very hyperbolically, not in favor of Hayden Christensen.
I'm still in the Clone Wars. So but
oh, did he do the voice of Anakin in the Clone Wars?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying like that's in the timeline. That's where I'm at. I have not seen episode 3 and things beyond, so I just kind of always assumed that he put the suit on, like.
No, like he dons the moniker of Vader, and he joins Emperor Palpatine, but no, he never actually wears the suit. He just kind of wears his normal Jedi stuff.
Okay. Never know. But yes, I did say I am a big fan of James Earl Jones.
Yes, he's very good. I also love him from the Jack Ryan movies, of course, and Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games.
Right. Also, in Thor's Hammer, something that I really liked, I was a big fan of. I like that they had Daniel be the one to destroy the hammer to free Teal'c.
That is something I thought about when I saw it. It reminded me of, what was it, episode 1 when we were going through Children of the Gods, part 1 and 2. And you had mentioned how Skara did kneel down, even though he didn't want to, because that was something that was bred into his character. He was a slave that had freed himself. He was his own master now. And when Daniel had to do that, knowing that could save Sharai utterly and entirely, to save the man that essentially put her into being taken over by a Goa'uld, Teal'c, even though she was selected by Apophis, Teal'c was the guy that delivered her right into Apophis' arms because he was first prime.
Yeah.
And that had to be a very humbling experience, I would have to say. If not,
Yes.
probably one of the hardest things we see Daniel ever have to do.
Yes. And also, I liked it because, you know, they're a team. And by Jack giving the staff to Daniel and telling him to go to the other side and do it, he ensures that, you know, Daniel has to make that decision. He has to decide that I care about Teal'c enough as a member of my team that I'm going to save his life now. And that go ahead, that immediately like stamps out like any type of like resentment and dissent in the team for future missions. And like I just thought that was a really good like leadership thing.
I have to ask the question though, does it?
I mean, in a sense that like Daniel's not going to be like, you know, get in an argument later and be like, you destroyed the only means of blah blah blah, like, you know, but because he decided to do it.
Well,
so any anger or dissent or anything like that he would have would be against himself, even though the others talked him into it and they explained why. He made the decision to pull that trigger right then and there. There was no urgency. There wasn't a ticking clock.
Well, yeah, but I mean, don't we kind of see this come up later on? Not to do too many spoilers.
Right. I mean, in a sense, but even if it's not 100% effective, I still think that it is a good move as a leader of a team.
Oh yes, most certainly. I completely agree with that. I just
because like if he would have done it himself, then Daniel would begin to feel ostracized out of the team. Like, okay, we got Jack and Teal'c, you know, and then once, you know, some type of romantic interest starts popping up with Sam and Jack, then, you know, that would only fester that even further. And it would probably change the character of Daniel Jackson in its entirety.
True. Because then you're right, he would have been completely ostracized. But I don't know, I think to some extent he still would have, maintained his sort of intellectual, smart person, you know, bond with Samantha Carter.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Now, there are a few things that happen later on that I think, if you're correct, if O'Neill had done the shooting of Thor's hammer instead of, you know, making Daniel do it, I think there are a couple instances later on that they are able to kind of sort of save each other, and that's
right.
Because they have a sort of stronger bond that they wouldn't have if...
Exactly. And that's because, I don't want to say everything, but much of what O'Neill does is cementing the bond between the members of SG-1. Like, no man left behind. We always have each other's back, and we are responsible for each other's lives. And I mean, it's admirable. It's an admirable quality in someone who is in command of your team.
I completely agree. I think the main reason, though, for the whole team, because yeah, you know, Carter has military training. He's already got a bond with Daniel. I think mainly the reason they do that is because he knows he needs to cement Teal'c into the hearts and minds of the team and the SGC, especially after something that we see coming up.
Yeah. And on that note, those are all of my notes.
On that note, that's all of my notes.
Yes. On that note, I'm out of notes.
One thing that I forgot to mention earlier is I do like how it seems that Teal'c kind of misses the fact that the treaty is mentioned, right?
Right.
Now, I'm not sure if I would assume Apophis is big enough, you know, to know about the treaty with the Asgard.
Oh yeah, he's a system lord.
Yeah, especially since, you know, something transpired on Samaria that no Goa'uld will speak of.
Yeah. So they, at this point, the Jaffa are probably largely unaware of the treaty. I would assume that there's one or two or something here and there that are aware of like the old heads, and they just don't speak of it because they know they'll, get killed. Like Drey'auc, I wouldn't be surprised if he was aware of it.
I didn't think about it from that aspect. You're absolutely correct. It could be a generational type of thing, because he did say it was a long time ago. And, Drey'auc, being the beautiful man that he is of 133 years of age, he probably does know about it. He seems to know a little bit about everything. And that's somebody that's going to be coming up here in the episode after our next one. But to get on to the next episode, The Torment of Teal'c, we get to see a much larger context, and it's not until later on that we realize the full gravity of the much larger context to kind of everything going on in the universe and everybody involved with our little corner of the galaxy and the solar system. In The Torment of Teal'c, now before we actually get into talking about the episode, what is the Doctor from Atlantis?
Which one?
The medical
The Irishman? The Irishman or the...
Yes, the Doctor played by none other than Paul McGillion.
Carson Beckett?
Yes. And Mr. Carson Beckett, before he was Carson Beckett, was none other than Dr. Ernest Littlefield.
What?
Yes, he is. In the very beginning of The Torment of Teal'c, we see Daniel going over a bunch of old film reels from some box of files that the Pentagon unleashed, or not unleashed, but dug up from its archives. Sent on over to Stargate Command because it had to deal with experiments done on the gate back in 1945 by Dr. Catherine Langford's father. And Dr. Ernest Littlefield happened to be the sweetheart of Dr. Catherine Langford, and they were even going to get engaged and married when, for the first time ever, since its burial back in ancient Egypt, the Stargate was turned on. It was turned on by experimentations under Catherine Langford's father and Dr. Ernest Littlefield. He had the vision to see that the Stargate was a portal and not some kind of weapon. Catherine's father believed it might be, basically something that simply kills you because it was called the Gateway to Heaven.
Right.
And in an experiment where they turned it on, Ernest Littlefield goes through in an old submariner suit. And once the gate closes, the cords holding him, tethering him to Earth, are severed, of course.
Right.
And at that point, everybody freaks out, and Catherine Langford's father believes he's dead and lost. There's a chest over here.
Yeah, I just got it.
Oh, okay, the bronze one. Over here. And after that, of course, everything is sealed up and not unearthed until much later, when Catherine Langford is put in charge of the Stargate program under General West and initially recruits Jack O'Neill and Daniel Jackson, and the first mission to Abydos happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Dr. Carson Beckett, Paul McGillion, was Dr. Ernest Littlefield.
Dude, that's crazy. I didn't know that at all.
He looked really familiar, and so I paused to X-ray to see who he was, right? And it said Paul McGillion, and I'm like, that name's real familiar, and he looks real familiar. And when you click on it, it brings up other stuff that he was in, and it had Stargate Atlantis.
That guy's a pretty good actor.
He is.
He got some good range.
Oh, yeah. I loved him as Carson Beckett. Older Dr. Ernest, though, the one that we see for most of the episode, that is played by Keen Curtis. In all of his birthday glory when we come upon him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when SG-1 arrives on this planet, they come in search of Dr. Ernest Littlefield. Daniel Jackson has committed a big no-no, and he's told everything to Catherine Langford, who's been kind of ostracized from the program since things changed hands out of General West to General Hammond's hands. But he kind of brings her into the fold and kind of ticks off General Hammond there a little bit, you know. And even though he broke
authorized
protocol,
this?
Colonel O'Neill, did you authorize Dr. Jackson to give classified information to a civilian?
That's what I like about Jack too, man. Because when he asks him that, he goes, "Absolutely not, sir." Like, you know, showcasing that no, I am a military man and I did not authorize this.
And in fact, I told him not to say anything.
Even though I completely agree with his decision.
I love how he talks about General Hammond right in front of him. Catherine Langford's like, I don't know, this guy seems maybe a little bit scarier than General West. Yeah. Oh no, he's a teddy bear. I just love that kind of relationship between O'Neill and Hammond. It's like, okay,
yeah,
he can obviously get away with most anything so long as he continues to do what he's supposed to do.
Right.
But upon arriving upon the planet, and the only reference I found for the name of it is Heliopolis, and that was stated by Dr. Ernest Littlefield, because in fact it was a repository of knowledge and a gathering of opposing clans for a common purpose. Now, Heliopolis is basically a big old castle that's set up on a cliff. The DHD is damaged, can't use it to get home. A storm's rolling in and about to collapse the whole castle into the ocean.
Oh, hey, sorry, we just shrunk Abomination. That's awesome. I have not seen that yet. Yeah, you bitch. All right.
Oh, we gotta save this guy before he knocks him out? Okay, we're good. But castle's about to sink into the ocean because of the next storm coming. You have a universal language at your hands. Big old meaning of life stuff according to Daniel. And no way to power the Stargate. What do?
Right. And really, there really is only one thing to do. And that's what they do. It's record as much of it as you can and get the hell out of Dodge, and try to meet the people that wrote it later. That's really all you can do. That's the only sensible option.
Well, that's not kind of what ends up happening, though. They kind of end up, almost leaving Daniel behind. Oh, he was almost dead anyway. I was looking for health. But Daniel, in his usual early SG-1 pitching a fit,
right?
And so I'm gonna stay behind. Oh no. We can't leave this up. We can't just leave this here. We can't give this up. We have to take this with us. It's like, Daniel, if you stay here, you're gonna die, bro. Well, I'm still.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, come on, Daniel.
Raw power is intimidating.
And then
you, of course, which is good,
he goes with them.
Well, yes, because he listened to O'Neill's and Catherine's, and most importantly, Dr. Ernest Littlefield's advice that there's no point in having knowledge if you can't share it.
Exactly.
Now, a couple of funny notes I have for this episode is that O'Neill confesses to Daniel that the Pentagon has lost entire countries.
I had that one too. That was great. I love that one.
Teal'c deduces that they have a Stargate and need a DHD.
Yeah. Alright guys, survival time. What do we have? What do we need? We have
Stargate.
A Stargate. We need a dial-home device. Thanks, Teal'c.
Thanks for coming out.
Oh man, I love Teal'c. I love this show, man. Like, everybody's so cool.
We have so many great characters, and I don't know. This is just some of the first, great Teal'c moments that we have.
Oh yeah.
Still probably one of my personal favorite. You have said that many times. Perhaps next time I shall not be so forgiving. Yes. But yes, I love this episode. Now, something I do want to point out is that the 4 alien languages that you see on the wall, we later learned that this was in fact a place like Heliopolis, not in the fact that it was, the pinnacle place of worship of Ra, but that it was a place where different clans met for a common purpose. Among these clans was the Asgard, who we've gotten hinted at. 2 of these races, one we've seen their handiwork all over Stargate thus far, and that would be the Alterans. And then the last race would be, well, not the last race, but the next race would be the Furlings, who we don't really get to see till much later on. And even then, it's just a little bit of their handiwork. But then finally, the last race that was here, one of my personal favorite, the Nox.
Very nice.
Yes. I love those guys. I love the sylvan nature of them.
Yeah.
Now, the way that the Asgard are recognized by Daniel is that he sees Norse runes. One of them in particular is the rune of Othala.
Avenger. The Resistance has
And the rune of
located
Othala
one of
means
Scientists supreme
that it's a place, a collection of
army of our worst
numinous
enemies.
knowledge
I'm sure you'll
and a
agree
gathering
that
of
we
clans
can't
for
let
a
that
common
happen.
interest.
We need to
So
take
I'm
down
sorry, that
whatever
was not
foes she's
Heliopolis.
resurrected,
But
or we'll be
Heliopolis
faced with a
was
daunting
a
problem,
big
and I count on you
repository
to
and
help.
library. But Othala is where the common meeting place for clans of a common interest comes from. Now the episode, the reason that we brought up Daniel and the fact that he likes to throw his little hissy fits and didn't want to leave and, got down as much of this universal language that they could, is kind of similar to the actual torment of Tantalus. And the torment of Tantalus is that he was bound in Hades, right? Imprisoned in Hades, in the underworld, and he was forced to stand in water. But he wasn't allowed to drink from it. And when his thirst became so great and his throat so parched, he tries to drink from it. The water recedes from him, and he can never get to the water quick enough to drink it. So he is always and forever tormented by temptation. And that's kind of what we see exhibited in Daniel's behavior.
Yes.
They have the tower locked down.
Now,
with
when I
an
brought up
elite
the
guard
fact
team.
of the story
gonna have
of
to
the Torment
take
of
them out
Tantalus, do you
before
seem to
you
have something you want to throw in? What was you wanting to throw in there, Vinny?
Oh, that was just I was just remembering the Greek myth of Torment of Tantalus. So I was like, oh yeah, that's. But I do have some things. I probably wrote more notes on this episode than I have on an episode yet.
Head for the location on your
I think
phone.
this was probably the most involved episode we had this week.
Yes. But who are you, Widow?
Yes.
Okay.
Swinging around like Spider-Man.
So let's see. Pentagon lost entire countries. We covered that.
Oh yes, and I find that to be hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Because
You know it's true.
Yes.
You know it's true.
You know it's true in real life. There's no way it's not.
But something else I was wanting to point out is that I don't know if you've watched it. I don't think you have. But this episode, kinda, not really, but a little bit ties into Stargate Origins. Catherine Langford.
I have not watched that yet. No, but do throw it in because Catherine's a big part of this episode, and I feel to a certain extent, and I don't know if you would agree, but she's kind of downplayed after her initial introduction into the episode.
Yeah. So when they announced they was doing the Stargate Origins and they was starting with Catherine Langford, honestly, I was like, how is that not already been established? Like, what is this going to be, like a clip show? Like, I mean, we've seen it, but in that thing, it's like 100 minutes. It's like 10-minute episodes, and I think Amazon might even have them all in like one little block thing. I haven't watched it since it first came out on the internet, but basically, it's Catherine and her father finding the Stargate in Egypt. They unearth it. It's an archaeological find. And they activate it and go through it.
What?
Yes, I know, right? The thing is, the reason that that conflicts with what we already know is that they don't remember it.
Another enemy defeated.
So it's just kind of a little fan service thing they did, kind of post facto.
Yeah. But yeah, they get like their memories wiped, and that's why they still spend so much time trying to figure out like what it is and all that. Like, so yeah, they go through it, and they go to Abydos.
They go to Abydos.
Yes.
So I guess that's kind of their logic of how Catherine was able to quote unquote find Abydos for the movie.
I guess so.
I mean that seems like the only thing that could really tie in there.
Right. But I mean, you couldn't really have them go anywhere else because then that would throw off all the whole planetary drift thing.
Well,
it's either there or Heliopolis.
True, and I'm glad you brought that up because Heliopolis has very similar coordinates to Abydos. That is something that they brought up because Carter, I think Carter asked, no, Catherine asked Carter about it. Not Carter asked Catherine, but Catherine asked Carter about it, and that was the hugely scientific explanation.
Yes. But anyway, they go to Abydos, and there is a Goa'uld. It was not Ra. Or I think Ra was ruling, but he wasn't there.
So he had an underling.
Yeah, and there was an underling, and there was a lot of I think it was his queen actually, and then I think there was also another female Goa'uld, and there was a whole big thing there. And their whole plan was that they were going to overthrow Ra and take his place as that system lord. And you know,
sounds
this
like
was in the 30s.
Typical Goa'uld thing.
Right. And you know, this
old,
was in like the 30s and 40s, so you know, World War II is going on, and they're in Egypt. So like, there's Nazis and stuff, like real Indiana Jones type.
There's Nazis.
You know, a whole big Indiana Jones type thing, and this big like SS officer finds out about the Stargate as well, and he goes through. And
wait, how is he able to go through if Catherine and her father found it first and they have it?
I don't remember. I'm sure it was just some kind of ex machina thing. Like they went through, and then he came around the corner and was like, "Oh, what's this?" Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, I don't really remember. But he goes through and he meets with the Goa'uld Queen, and they make a deal. And the deal is
she doesn't just take him over.
No. They make a deal, and the deal is that the Goa'uld are going to give the Nazis technology to help them win World War II, and in exchange, all of the like undesirables of the Third Reich are going to be given to the Goa'uld as slaves and hosts.
There's a security chief up ahead who has the information to his facility.
Dang.
You know what to do.
Yeah. And Catherine Langford, along with her like little team, and some Abydonian slaves, stop it, and they're like the heroes of the story.
Her little Abydonian team. I'm guessing she's speaking Egyptian through a lot of it, or do they do the whole translate because it's a TV show thing?
They do a good mix. It's a mix.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Mix is the best.
Yes.
Especially if like the people from Abydos are speaking Egyptian and she's just speaking English to them and just perfectly understands what they say, and you know, then she speaks Egyptian to them. That'd be the best.
Hey! Where did this thing come from?
But that's pretty cool. So that kind of ties in. Kind of makes you wonder though. Something I do have to wonder though is if this happens and this is canon, right? Of course it's canon post facto, but
right.
How come they never went like redialed the same coordinates?
They don't remember. They didn't remember doing it. They got their memory wiped.
Well, no, I'm saying like specifically for back to Torment of Tantalus. You know, if Ernest Littlefield went through and was cut off, why didn't they just redial the plan?
Yeah, dude, that's a good question.
Because I mean, even if you want to say like, you know, they're a little stupefied because you know they didn't remember from going through before, blah blah blah. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that here and now, when they're trying to dial the gate on a regular basis, probably because of what happened. Why didn't they just redial the gate this time?
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is if
Impressive and educational performance.
Catherine's father, after Ernest went through, he was just like, "That's it,
we're done."
Like, no more. Just see that thing and ate him alive. Like,
it is a doorway to hell. All it does is kill you.
that's the only explanation that I can think of on the spot. I don't know.
There's not really a good one. It's just kind of one of those plot holes, you know, that we get to poke fun at, and you know, it never really gets answered, explained in the show.
Right.
But of course, you know, that's to be expected. There's, you know, it's TV. Things happen.
I do think it's funny how long it takes everyone to realize that Ernest just wasn't able to come back, and by extension, you're not able to go back. Like every few minutes, someone's like, "Wait a minute, we're stuck," and it's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, at the same time, Ernest wouldn't have known how to use the DHD. He wouldn't have known how to dial Earth. He could have spent all that time, just like, you know, the military spent all that time trying to dial other coordinates and never succeeding.
Yeah, but the DHD accounts for planetary drift.
Well, yes, but that doesn't mean he's going to input a correct set of coordinates, because you have to know the point of origin, and the point of origin is not designated on a DHD in any prominent way like it is on the Atlantis gate dialer.
You are correct, sir.
So he was kind of dealing with an infinite set of combinations because he didn't have the point of origin to help narrow it down.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And also think about it. You can dial 8 and even 9 chevrons on a Stargate. So what if he was trying to put in 8 symbols?
Using his credentials.
True.
It's not a powerful enough gate to be able to travel to the Pegasus Galaxy or you know, anything like that. And of course,
Right.
definitely not going to have the power to be able to travel to the Destiny.
Right. Valid analysis.
I'm no scientist, though. But couldn't we do that Ben Franklin thing?
Glad we're on the same page
Right.
about your channel.
Also, this episode is proof that the Goa'uld did not invent the Stargates. They only use them like the parasites that they are.
Goa'uld parasites. They're scavengers. They take things.
Also a good Hammond quote from this one that like when they was trying to convince Hammond to let Catherine go through the gate and everyone was just on his case, and they're all like kind of like subtly but not subtly making like all these points and stuff, and he says, "Thank you all for your very thorough analysis of the situation."
But I was already convinced by Dr. Jackson's initial argument.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, sir. Can we go through the gate then? I don't know, there's a lot of good, fun stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff out of Stargate.
Hey, where's Taskmaster? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's over here with me and Thor. Oh, and he just knocked me for a loop. Just like, you know, SG-1 got knocked for a loop when the castle started getting knocked down around it because they did channel thunder into the Stargate to power it, so they can manually dial, just like Ernest Littlefield did all those years ago to get it.
I also was very fond of the actor. I forget what he said. His name was Keen something.
Keen Curtis.
Keen Curtis.
Yes.
I very much liked his performance. as Dr. Ernest Littlefield. Like just the raw emotion conveyed in like the interactions we have with him was really good. I liked it too, like when he just like kind of snubs Catherine when they first come in. He's like, he like sees Daniel, and Daniel's like, "We're real," and he's like, "Ah!" Like that joy, that pure joy of seeing another living, breathing human for the first time in 50 years, and then he sees the love of his life.
Well, they
which
do
I get it.
They do a good job of representing what PTSD can do to a person.
Oh yeah, exactly.
To kind of cope with that and the trauma of being stuck on a planet.
Mm-hmm. He thought they were
jump off the edge there. Now I'm down.
Yeah, he had been like hallucinating and manifesting her.
He had been imagining that she was there the entire time.
Yeah, so for him, they had a wonderful life together.
And he had to do that just out of sheer necessity, just to be able to remain sane enough to survive. Which we see that he does a pretty good job of. He's got a little stockpile of berries and other kind of foodstuffs around. He did a really great job of learning to forage and scavenge and keep himself going. And of course, he also mentions that the room with basically the records of all the meetings that had happened by these 4 alien races was the safest room in the castle.
Yeah.
Which consequently is one of Daniel's excuses to try to throw a little hissy fit and stay behind. I really like later on when Daniel kind of gets out of that groove, you know. But that pretty much does it for Torment of Tantalus. Again, we get to kind of see some things fleshed out, but nothing too heavy. Just mainly kind of get to see a little bit of context to the greater universe, especially since we've gotten to see the Nox, and we've gotten to see the Goa'uld, and the Asgard have been hinted at this far. Now, the next little adventure that comes along is the episode Bloodlines. And this is where the Nisio's favorite character, portrayed by none other than the wonderful Tony Amendola. Wow, I love how I'm like spamming dodge and I can't dodge any of these attacks.
Also,
you can see Tony Amendola.
I kind of was a little out there for 1 sec because my friend came in here. But a couple of quick little tidbits, real quick.
Okay, what tidbits you got?
Okay, first of all, I've always loved the concept of the 4 races. It's one of my favorite things about Stargate. So I was excited to watch the episode where that is first indicated. I'm a huge fan that Stargate decided to go with atomic theory as the universal language over mathematics, which is the usual go-to in science fiction. I think,
yes, that is a pretty easy.
Better representation. You don't usually see that. It's almost always mathematics. Oh, it's a universal language, and it's like, is it though?
You never learn, Master.
So seeing them do it with atomic theory was really cool.
I want you to be the one.
Well, it wasn't just atomic theory. It was periodic table, and of course, if you didn't notice, they did use math to deduce how to read.
Right, yeah, for sure. But I'm saying, like, the characters in the language were atoms.
Yes.
It was the nucleus of protons and neutrons with electrons.
And the electrons
is
how they organized it all.
Great work,
Yes.
Avengers. If we get any more sightings of AIM clones, we'll
Also,
be back in touch.
I did think I like the whole thing where Daniel Jackson is standing there in front of, this thing that's got, all this knowledge and stuff, and he's like, all right, shoot it. Like, you could just feel, like, how sick of that he's getting.
Well, I mean,
Every time.
we get a lot
Every
more of
time they
that.
come across something that he wants or that he finds useful or that could be useful to like humanity or the SGC or anything, they always shoot it.
All right, yeah, just shoot it.
Go ahead, shoot it.
I mean,
And
it's kind of
was-
like, you know, it's just nice every once in a while to get away from people, you know, hurling huge paper-mache boulders at you all frickin' day, right?
Oh, you beat me by 2 seconds, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
Hey, safer work, brother. Come on.
Bruh.
Leave the F-bombs
You
in the
son of a
SOBs
gun.
out. There you go.
You
Just leave
son of a gun.
Just leave GD, the F-bomb, and SOB out.
Right.
That's really all I'm looking for. That's
All right.
really all I'm looking for.
Alright.
But yes, I'm sorry. I beat you to it. I kind of knew that's where you were going, and I was like, oh, let's steal this thunder.
Yes.
You know, kind of like
This
Thor
was
the
this was
Thunder
the
God gets his
first.
stolen.
This was the first episode where Michael Shakes has huge paper mache boulders dropped on it.
But at least it's a real show, and you're making real money.
Yeah. Dude. Oh man.
The string of episodes with Marty. Well, the episodes with Marty and Wormhole Extreme, and he's directing Wormhole Extreme. Those are my second favorite all-time episodes.
Yeah. Dude. I was watching this episode, man, and like they're running, like I'm getting really into it because it's like it's very high stakes, you know, it's very dramatic, you know, it's like this is a really good episode, and then there's like that big lightning struck and the storm, it's just like, and all that stuff starts falling, and they like dive out of the way, like, oh, and all that stuff comes falling down, and I instantly just busted out laughing. I was like, oh my god, this is what he was talking about.
I think there's some rocks in a cave somewhere too, and you know he
Yeah,
gets
for sure, it
pounced
happened
on
several
by the
times, but this was
Neanderthals
like-
in the Broken Divide.
I feel like this was the one where they were like, "Hey guys, we got this now," and like, like this is new.
All right, get the paper mache boulders ready. He doesn't know it's coming, O'Neill. We didn't tell him.
I gotta say, in that one Wormhole Extreme one, dude, the guy that's like representing Michael Shakes, they blast him right in the face, dude.
It seems like they just took it. It seems like it was like a little kid playing dodgeball. Bah!
Yes.
Check it out.
And he's like, ah! He's like got a little bit of blood on it. Beep, beep, beep.
Wait, it's not a real show? How is this not a real show? I'm getting
getting
paid real
paid.
money, right?
Yeah, you're getting paid real money. Is there real film in the camera? Yeah, we're really filming this.
In real life.
Is the script real? Yeah, it's all been written. These are all real people. They all have real jobs. How is this not a real show?
Uploading the
In real life, those guys are brothers.
Security appears
Oh, nice.
tighter than
Yes. Yes, and I do not remember their names off the top of my head at the moment. I do apologize, but they were also both in a show way back that I liked. It was a good old sci-fi show, Sequest DSV. As Dagwood.
That's
and
right.
I've marked the Hive's entry terminal on your HUD.
Of course, I'm feeling like a moron because if I wasn't trying to think of their names, I would remember their names.
I feel like we did this on an episode before about these guys. We were talking about them, and you looked their names up, but I don't remember what they were either.
Yeah, I get real brain farty when I'm nervous, you know. But anyways, moving past that comment, the next episode we come into is number 11, Bloodlines.
Bloodlines.
Now, Bloodlines is an episode that'll test your fate. It'll test your heart. It'll make you wonder, is Teal'c ever telling the truth?
Right.
Now, in this
Who
episode...
is Teal'c?
Oh, and something else. If you start to really look at how to spell different Jaffa names, like Bray'c, Rya'c, Drey'auc, Teal'c, the Jaffa love their apostrophes, man. They do. Yeah. You got Bray'c, B-R-A''TAC. You got Teal'c, T-E-A-L''C. Rya'c, R-Y-A''C. Drey'auc, which I think is crap. Where to put it? D-R-E-Y''AUC.
Yeah.
These people will test
your what was
punctuation skills,
Shackle?
Man. Oh yes.
Remember Shackle?
I think that's SHK''L.
Yeah.
These people, you know, the Jaffa, they'll test your punctuation skills, man. They'll really make sure that you know how to diagram those sentences, just like your first grade English teachers. But
Bloodlines.
in this episode, we get to see the introduction of your favorite character, Bray'c, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Bray'c.
Looking good for a man of 133.
Absolutely. I was 100 years younger.
I might have beaten you.
I love Bray'c.
He's easily just one of the funniest characters without even trying to be sometimes.
Yeah, man.
And always one of those characters that you, I don't know, I always finding myself paying attention to everything Bray'c says.
Right, exactly.
You never know when he's going to get off a good quip on you.
You bring this Rya'c here?
Hey,
who you calling a hassock? Is he like...
He's like General Hammond, only O'Neill can't get anything by him.
Right. Dude, yes.
I love it. So whom do you serve? So you serve no one? No, I serve General Hammond in the SGC. And this General Hammond is? Oh, just a man. Just a very bald man from Texas. And when he first arrives to the SGC and sees General Hammond, you are Hammond, and he waves his hand above his head because Hammond's bald. Of Texas.
Yeah. Yes.
I
love too, like the relationship that gets developed between Hammond and Bray'c later throughout the series.
I mean, they have fun with O'Neill.
Yeah. And also like you know, Bray'c is always acknowledging that Hammond is a Texan. And Hammond always refers to Bray'c as master.
Exactly. Hammond of Texas. Master Bray'c, welcome back. Now, a fun little fact about Tony Amendola. I love Tony Amendola. I've seen him in a lot of different stuff. One thing that comes to mind that we might be checking out a wee bit later when we start doing some movie stuff involved with Rewind and Renerd is the Mask of Zorro. He plays one of the Spanish Dons. He does several other things as well. But little fun fact I picked up trivia, because I know how you like fun trivia. Tony Amendola and Gary Jones, who are Bray'c and Walter, are the only two characters out of the entire roster of the Stargate crew that were cast upon their first audition. They didn't have to come back for a second.
That's pretty cool. I was not aware of that.
But just to kind of give the synopsis of this episode, we see the SGC beginning to experiment with drugs to try to help replace symbiotes. I mean, we've already begun to see the sort of induction and the hintings of the Jaffa rebellion later on, because both Bray'c and Teal'c believe the Goa'uld to be false gods. And they are not the only ones that believe in peace and freedom. But SGC begins to experiment with drugs. They're working with Teal'c to see if they can have something replace the symbiote. And during the experiment, he begins to hallucinate and call out the name of his son, Rya'c. When inquiring, as to who Rya'c was, Teal'c says it's nobody. And that's because he's already previously swore to General Hammond that he had no ties back on Chulak. You know, nothing that can be used against the SGC to compromise him. And I could not get out of there.
Another enemy defeated.
So we've ripped through this team.
For the most part, I've gone down a couple of times. I'm not too happy about that. Now, after confessing to O'Neill that he does have, in fact, have family back on Chulak, O'Neill and Hammond are, of course, you know, understandably upset.
Mm-hmm.
Because Teal'c lied, and, you know, if you weren't honest with us before, how can we trust you now? You know, how do we know there's not more going on that you aren't telling us? Teal'c initially tries to get them to go back to Chulak, though, in an attempt to capture larva Goa'uld, because there is an abundance on Chulak, an abundance like no other world has. Now, Teal'c's main motivation is to stop Rya'c from receiving his primtop and becoming a slave to the Goa'uld. He wants freedom for his son. And after, you know, the truth comes out, O'Neill is able to convince Hammond to let them go on a mission. And upon arriving at the world of Chulak, getting past the guard at the gate, they sneak off to Teal'c's old home, where they see a symbol painted on the wall that means Sho'la, traitor.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, Teal'c is completely afraid for his wife and son they left behind, because traitors and the family of traitors are not usually treated very well at all. In fact, they're usually exiled.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any culture that treats traitors well.
Well, I think rules of war, you know, in today's world might kind of have some kind of, you know, fair treatment, but no, most places are like, you know, drawn quarter 'em, public, you know, public execution, firing line, hang 'em, something.
Yeah, I mean, they're still not like treated. I still say they're not treated well. You're not just hanging out in any town USA as, you know, Edward Snowden. Like, I don't know, I'm just saying. Like,
probably not.
And that's not me trying to like dive into that whole issue. I was just making a reference.
Oh god, what's the other one? It's not Snowden. Isn't there another one like so and so was telling the truth?
Yeah, there's 3 of them actually. I don't remember all their names. Snowden was like the big one though. He was the first one. He was one that revealed the.
Well, I mean, there was somebody recently, and there was a whole big thing about like a year and a half ago. I forget the name. But anyways, you know, that's another topic for another time.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, something I really liked is Drey'aoc's literalness when we come upon him.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to after coming up and calling O'Neill a Hasek and insulting SG-1 after Teal'c says that they are warriors of great skill and cunning, which makes O'Neill blush and go, "Aw, Teal'c."
Right.
Like that just seemed actually kind of out of character for, you know, the Doctor, Captain Doctor.
Right.
But they devise a plan of how they're going to go about trying to find Teal'c's son and wife. Drey'auc let Teal'c know that his son and wife are in a exile camp outside the limits of the city. And O'Neill says, well, you know, if we have to fight some dudes, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And Drey'auc oh so masterfully says, no, we will not use the bridge. It's too heavily guarded.
Right.
And of course,
well,
Teal'c
decides, you will do as I say.
Well, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm in charge here. And then he just brushes him off and continues to talk.
Right.
I love that dismissive nature Drey'auc has. He just kind of, anytime O'Neill's trying to come in. anytime O'Neill's trying to, be funny and quippy and, a little, his usual O'Neill self, Bray'tech always just kind of brushes him off.
Right, you take some of these dudes out.
Oh, we got multiple adaptoids.
Oh yeah, we got that assault. Those are the worst ones. I hate the assault adaptoids. Hold on, I'm about to hit him with a rally cry. He takes extra damage for the next 30 seconds.
I'm working on another one over here.
And I'm down because the cryo adaptoid comes flying in.
Yep, and I'm pushing another one in right on top of you too.
It's all good. Alright.
We got the cryo, the fire, and the regular adaptoid. Now this is not too dissimilar from some fights we get to see in this particular episode. We get to see Carter blow up a group of 3 Jaffa with 1 frag grenade.
Right.
That was pretty cool. Has to cover Daniel, which I know I find that kind of funny that you're gonna sit there and think Daniel needs to be covered after he just murdered a bunch of Goa'uld larva children.
Yeah.
Of course they are.
I gotta
Goa'ulds.
say, man, I do like that scene or that instance, where they have that little larval tank or whatever, and she's like, "What are you thinking?" And he's like, "I'm just thinking that each one of these things is gonna take a human life." And she's like, "Well, if you kill them now, it's defensive." I was like, "Oh, you're no better than the Goa'uld." And he thinks about that. From what I could tell, agrees, feels that she was right, and then kills them anyway.
You disabled the turbine.
And I gotta
Shows the
say,
darker side of Daniel.
yeah, I'd probably do the same. I mean, honestly, I'm just throwing that out there. Like, I'm not. Yeah, you're not gonna see me high roading over that.
Well, I mean, Carter doesn't. It isn't very
Right.
understandable, why he does it. Me personally, I wouldn't have just taken the one symbiote for experimentation, right? I'd have tried to take a couple of them, me personally. Now killing them, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a to each their own type of thing,
Right. Honestly, the big thing is like, would it even occur to me though?
What, to just execute all the larva?
Yeah. That's probably the big factor. Is like, would it even occur to me? Because on one hand, I'm like, oh yeah, I would do that. But on the other hand, I'm like, I probably wouldn't even be thinking about that. I probably would be like, hey, let's get the hell out of here.
Me, I'd probably be on the side of get in, get out. That would more than likely be my mentality. I don't think I would sit there and think to execute them.
Exactly.
But I mean, even when you see me in a lot of video games, a lot of times, I tend to prefer less direct approaches.
Right. I do know that Mag did definitely teach me to reactively take advantage of a defenseless enemy.
Yes, true. But then again, we were commonly playing a game mode with 128 players.
Right. Also, kind of like add a little spark into the debate. At this moment in SG-1, you would think, okay, I would do the same thing as that. Because, when it comes to when you think of people, you could be like, they have to be free to make their own choices and stuff. But then the whole thing with the Goa'uld is they have this genetic memory and all this, and they're these creatures, and this is what they do, 100%. But you find out later, that's not necessarily the case.
Well, you have different kinds of Goa'uld.
I'm just saying, what if those larvae had grown up to become Teal'c?
Well, the Teal'c come from one specific queen. That was always the big thing about the Teal'c.
Oh, yeah.
And anytime that they ever took in a Goa'uld, like Tanith, outside of what was going on with them and their own queen Jiraiya, it never really worked out for him. So I mean, kind of can't blame them for being super secretive. Plus, they're basically like the Goa'uld equivalent of a stealth intelligence network.
Right, you're right. But still, that queen had to make that choice. It shows that they are capable of making that choice. I don't think it's anything specific to her genealogy that makes her not evil.
Well, I'm not saying that, you know, it's just her genealogy that's not evil, but all the Teal'c trace their lines back to Nigeria.
Right.
Plus, you know, it's not every day you get to come across somebody like, you know, Jacob Carter, you know.
Right.
Every time I get into trying to take out these things, there's like 3 adaptoids that end up having to fight.
I know, man.
And there's another cryo one right on top of us. Let's clean these guys up here real quick, Denise. We gotta stick close. Never mind.
I'm right here.
Oh, I know. I was thinking if we stick close, we could probably keep them stun locked, but nope. That was a no-go on that.
It's these assault ones that get me, man.
I guess I'm just not timing my whiplash correct, but I feel like every time I try to pull it off against a yellow attack, it's just not working. Now, which one's the assault one? Oh, the fire one.
Yeah.
I hate the cryo ones because they freeze. Much like Carter froze after Daniel murdered a bunch of Goa'uld larvae. But, of course, once Teal'c gets to the camp, Drey'auc attacks him after he accidentally kills the priest that was going to perform the Printa. Teal'c was unaware that Rya'c was sick and unaware of everything that Drey'auc had to do to be able to get the priest to agree to perform a Printa that would save Rya'c's life. And as they begin to flee with Rya'c and Drey'auc to try to escape Teal'c, Teal'c ends up having to give his own symbiote to Rya'c to save him. And in true early season Stargate SG-1 fashion, they finally get some technology to make the boys in the in Washington happy and actually fulfill their standing orders, and they go and give it away.
Yeah.
Oh. Now. Oh, come on. Here we go. I see what you're saying about these assault guys. I don't remember usually having this much trouble with them. Hey.
Dude, I always have. Dude,
it's usually the
they're
cryo
always
for me.
something.
Those are the enemies I hate.
I mean, the cryos are difficult, but I can usually take them out without too much trouble. Those assault dudes, they're relentless.
The spin
It's
guys, the spin synthoids.
Boom.
The spin synthoids, man.
Yeah.
They're so tanky. I don't know, maybe the Hulkbuster is why I've never really noticed it before in terms of the assault guys, because he usually deals with them pretty easily, and so does Hulk himself, because you just R1, you jump up on him, you slam him down, knocks them out of their little flame thing.
Yeah, once he gets going, like they start throwing those fireballs, man, like they don't stop. It's just...
I completely flubbed that. Yeah, he just gets barraging you. It's very similar to when you have the cryo exos, and they just start lasering you with the machine gun. It freezes you so quick. But that's part of the challenge, I do like the variety of enemies. It keeps me on my toes. It's not like you can approach every enemy the same way, and it gives them a bit of a uniqueness. Before we get into the next episode, is there anything that you think that they could add from the Marvel Universe as another element? Because right now we got the Pym shrinking stuff. I think that's the fire, the gamma damage, or no, not gamma damage. What is it? particle damage.
Yeah. Particle
then
damage is 10 particles.
Yeah, and then you've got gamma damage.
And we got the
you've
plasma
got
fire damage.
Oh, that's right, plasma's fire.
Yeah.
And then cryo, gamma.
I think cosmic is a thing too.
That's the gravity stuff, right? Creates little gravity wells. You have like the telepathic synthoids.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the cosmic. Whoa. I kind of want to see negative energy come in as an element.
Right. That'd be cool. Let's see.
There's probably not too much we could bring in.
Honestly, magic.
You mean like straight magic?
I mean, just like, there's different types of, magic in Marvel. So, you could do it in a number of different ways. You could have like magical items, like Doctor Strange, or you could have like,
well, I'm saying, but for a damage type, they would. What would you call the one damage type? Because they probably throw it all in together into one.
like mystic damage or something like that.
Arcane.
Yeah.
I could see that. I think that'd be a good element.
Yeah.
Plus, that would give us a decent variety of other characters that they can also bring in, right?
Right. Including, but not limited to, magic.
Isn't she in New Mutants?
New Mutants, yep.
I might need to check that out as well.
Yeah. I want to. I've always had a thing for the New Mutants. I've been waiting on that movie forever.
They're probably going to be doing the same kind of thing that HBO's doing. You know, Disney and HBO right now.
Oh yeah.
That sounds bad and sort of vague.
Now, just to go ahead and wrap up Rewind and Renerd, because we are doing a double feature tonight. We're going to be joining Story Mode Live Gaming for Turn the Page after this. And we get to see a little bit more fleshing out of the Stargate universe in Fire and Water, where Daniel Jackson needs to figure out what fate Amaroka. In Fire and Water, SG-1's episode starts out with SG-1 coming back through the gate on an emergency 4 hours after they left. General Hammond's kind of warning, what's going on, what's happening. They come back, they're soaked to the bone. Fraser is brushed.
That's. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that is those, if you're not familiar, that's very unusual. Because usually when these SG teams go on these missions to other planets, like, they're gone a long time.
Oh yeah, day, 2, maybe a week.
Yeah, like, I think like the standard operating procedure is, check in 24 hours.
Yes.
Check
in every 24 hours.
Yeah, after the first 24 hours, you check in, you're like, okay, this is what's going on, and then you'll usually receive new orders from Hammond at that point.
Yep. Whether to keep exploring, or whether to come on back, or get the heck out of there. We're sending reinforcements, whatever the deal may be.
Yes.
Now, what else is important about the 4 hours, and I'm glad Vinicio brought up a mention of that, is that we discover later in the episode that SG-1 was actually only gone for a period of probably about 30 minutes. Now, why is that? That is because of what SG-1 finds on the planet. When they go through, they notice that there's a lot of volcanic activity in the area around this lake or sea. And almost immediately upon coming through the gate, they are greeted by none other than one of our main I won't say the main character, but he's probably the main supporting actor. He's part of the main duo. We mostly see Nim and Dr. Jackson interacting throughout most of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And Nim is a sort of aquatic type of alien that lives under the sea. And when he comes up on dry land, he recognizes our heroes as Teal'c, as human. And he draws some ancient glyphs in the sand, trying to see if they can communicate in that language. And that language is cuneiform, the ancient language of Babylon. Jackson, being the man of, great witty repartee and many languages that he is, writes back in Babylonian. At this point, Nim renders SG-1 unconscious, abducts Daniel, implants memories into SG-1's head, and sends them back through the gate, all within a period of probably about 30 minutes upon arriving. Now when SG-1 comes back through the gate, as I said, they're soaked to the bone. Dr. Fraser, played by Teal'c Rothery, is rushed to the gate room with her medical team, and she establishes that SG-1 is in shock from something that happened on the planet. After calming him down, doing some debriefing and some medical tests, which we first see Teal'c's great displeasure for medical tests in this episode.
Oh, yes. I do not wish this done.
And his favorite's getting his temperature taken. That's his absolute favorite. Getting that thermometer jammed in his mouth, even though he has a Goa'uld symbiote.
Yeah, dude.
I love Teal'c. But they established that,
You're good now.
apparently SG-1, when they went through, something happened. A great wave of fire engulfed the area around them, and Jackson was immediately consumed, according to them. They are as yet unaware that Nim has replaced their memories. Jackson, in the meantime, while SG-1 is trying to figure out what really went on and what's going on with them, as well as mourning for Daniel, having a memorial service, and starting to pack things up.
To Maria, but
Jackson is down with Nim, and Nim is trying to learn to communicate with him. What speech? And keeps having Daniel translate old cuneiform things of Babylon. He doesn't immediately reveal to Jackson why he's wanting him to do this. But later on, after Jackson kind of establishes a slight rapport with him, reveals to Jackson that he's looking for his mate, Amaroka. What fate, Amaroka? Now, one of the funny things I really liked while they were mourning for Jackson and they hadn't figured out what had happened, they were still back on Earth, is at the wake. O'Neill gets really pissed off and Jack has a beef with General Hammond's car. Will Hammond pay for the repairs, or will it come out of O'Neill's check?
Right.
You know that's my car, don't you? Oh, you should really get that window, fixed there. I have to say, General Hammond just demonstrates the kind of great man that he is in this episode, because he could have been ticked off, he could have been mad, but he just ignores it. Right? He just ignores it. And it's like, nope, ain't no thing. I don't know, that's one of the things that just endears me to Hammond.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's a great enough leader and a wise enough man to realize that they're just going through some heavy stuff, because essentially what they're experiencing in the aftershock or in the aftermath of the shock when they came through the gate, they are experiencing PTSD as well, so we get to see that kind of come up here in a couple episodes.
Right. Also, it is the first official Daniel Jackson SGC sanctioned funeral.
Yes, the first one.
Of many.
Just like the Unas.
I always love that one, later in the series, when some stuff goes on with Daniel. And Daniel's gone, and Jack's like, you don't know that.
Yeah,
how many times?
He'll be
He's
back.
like, how many times have we been certain that he was dead.
Well,
Just for him to come walking right to the gate.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's when he de-ascends again and appears naked in O'Neill's office when he's general. Whoa!
Sure.
Whoa, hey, he just rips off he goes to grab the American flag and then turns around and grabs the Air Force flag and rips it off.
Yes.
He's like, oh wait, I can't do this one. Whoosh.
Air Force.
But yeah, the first Daniel Jackson funeral.
I guess technically that would be his second death. Because, you know, the original mission to Abydos, they told everyone that he died when he stayed. Well,
no, he did die. He did die, and he had to be revived in the sarcophagus. Ra killed him, and then revived him in the sarcophagus. So yes, that would be his second death, I guess, at that point, because, you know, O'Neill told General West and the people when he came back from the mission that Jackson was dead. He confirms that in Children of the Gods canon. So as far as you know, everybody on Abydos, including Dr. Jackson, is dead. Yes. Now, we come to find out that Nim's mate actually plays a huge role in the history of Stargate. Daniel discovers after talking with Nim and building a rapport, and Nim using his technology that he used to implant the memory of Daniel Jackson's death in the mind of Carter, Teal'c, and O'Neill. He uses that to search Jackson's mind for what happened to Omaroka, because Jackson doesn't realize that he came across the information. And it come to find out that Omaroka originally came to Earth to fight the Goa'uld and had a hand in sparking the later rebellion that would lead the people of the Ta'arid, we later discovered that she helped spark the rebellion that the people of the Ta'arid used to throw off the Goa'uld and bury their Stargate, thus remaining hidden and unconquered. Because we also see this later in SG-1, them going back in time and basically having to spark the rebellion themselves. I think that's after they discover the puddle jumper, isn't it? And then there's an alternate reality episode about it as well.
Yes. I'm pretty sure.
Hey! Where did this thing come from?
Now, I again didn't have a whole lot of notes here.
I really didn't either on this one. Honestly, I also fell asleep like watching it this time.
Well, I know
it was really late.
Oh, it was just late when you were watching it?
Yeah.
Now I know when I was talking about Cold Lazarus in the previous episode, I said Cold Lazarus was one of my least favorite episodes.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the least favorite episode I have out of the whole show. It's not it's not really that, you know, because it focuses on one character or it's kind of slow. It just, I didn't really get the point of the whole episode. I mean, other than learning that Omaroka helped spark the rebellion that would later lead the people of the Ta'arid to be free and away from the Goa'uld, you don't really get anything big, you know? Other than kind of cementing, I guess, that, you know, where Jackson's kind of seemed like the fourth wheel, the outcast, you know? He's kind of seemed the guy on the outside looking in. I guess it's kind of like in the episode, like you said with Thor's hammer, how it cemented, you know, Teal'c being a part of the team. This kind of cements that Jackson's a part of the team.
Yeah, even though he's not military.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, we've had a brief candle. They're not going to leave O'Neill behind.
Right.
We have.
I know you're talking about the Carter one with the with the Mongolians.
Yes, the people of the steppe. I'm trying to remember the name of the episode. Let me grab my note cards here, even though I should know it.
It's like right there.
Emancipation.
In the front of my head. Yes. So yeah, we've got one for each of them, really.
Man, I dodged away from one. He turned around and shot me right in the face. But yeah, we have a brief candle, emancipation, Thor's hammer, and fire and water.
Thanks, pal.
So even though it's not my least favorite, or even though it is my least favorite episode, I do understand the importance because it's kind of, you know, the season 1 starter. You got to have everybody be shown to be an important part of the team.
Also,
Well done.
I feel like, you know, in the early stages of this show, especially the first season, you know, they got to be sitting there going like, look, we can't just have them go up against Goa'uld every episode. Like, we've got to try to come up with some other stuff. So I think they were just trying to throw out some different types of aliens and some different, you know, themes, and then just see what worked and what didn't.
Kind of see what sticks.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and clearly, you know, this wasn't something that stuck because we don't really ever see anything about, like, these aquatic people or Amaroka or them ever again, I don't believe.
That is very true. That is something that, now that you mention it, this last week's episode and this week's episode has multiple plot lines that kind of pick up and have something interesting, seeming like it's going to start, and then they just never go anywhere with it. Like when in Cold Lazarus, you know, Unity O'Neill kind of helps rekindle the relationship with his wife Sarah, and even once they reestablish that, hey, you know, they still have feelings for each other and they kind of help each other get over the loss of Charlie and whatnot, they never go anywhere with it. It's just kind of never mentioned again. Same thing with, to an extent, the Torment of Tantalus. I mean, they tie it in loosely later on, but they tie it in with a mention. It doesn't come out to anything really important. Same thing with Fire and Water. And I mean, even to a certain extent with Bloodlines. I mean, we never see it ever come up ever again. Even when they're like attacking a Goa'uld base, they never find any larval Goa'uld. Because even though Teal'c has the largest abundance, you know every system lord is going to have their own batch of Goa'uld to continue their servants and their armies. We never really see anything else about that.
Nope.
I think it also gets briefly brought up. It's kind of a subplot in the episode when they go looking for Ishta and the Amazonian Jaffa women. They have their own settlement. They're trying to bring them into the Jaffa rebellion later on, if I'm not mistaken.
Guess I just missed
Yes. Yeah, don't they raid and like steal larval Goa'ulds?
Yep, for when the females are reach the age and they should receive their primta, because if they don't, you know, they're going to get sick and die. And I do believe it was Malak. Malak was their big bad Goa'uld that they constantly went up against. He was going to sacrifice all women.
Yes, something like that. It was definitely Malak.
Oh, I think, or was it Moloch? Was his name Moloch or was it Malak?
I think it was Moloch.
Now that we mentioned that,
like MODOK.
Did you catch in the episode with Kendra and Thor's hammer, where she's talking about how on her planet beauty was a curse?
Mm-hmm.
Because girls would be, you know, taken for perfect hosts, and she was in the temple. Well, she mentions the name Moloch.
Oh.
So I have to wonder, was she one of Ishtar's group? Like, no, well, not her group specifically, but kind of her same cluster of Jaffa. You know, would have had that same brand.
That's pretty cool. I didn't catch the Moloch reference, but I did catch the thing about like the beauty being a curse because they chose, you know, they want perfect hosts.
Yes. Something I've been doing that's kind of helped me out a little bit watching these episodes is I watch it once, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's my watching it, that's my going back through and kind of, you know, getting this happened, that happened, and then I watch it a second time for the purpose of taking notes. And that's when I heard them. Because I'm going to be honest, on my note-taking runs, I turn on subtitles, and I would watch the subtitles. I don't really watch the episode.
Right.
But that's where I saw it. Something else, speaking of minor Goa'uld, we learn that the Goa'uld on Earth at the time was not Ra. Ra was away from Earth. Belus was the one specifically that Amaroko was fighting, and that was the Goa'uld specifically that killed Amaroko.
What a jerk.
I know, right? I mean, all she's trying to do is, you know, kind of do what the Asgard would do, you know, many thousands of years later.
Right.
Kind of try to protect developing sentient species. Which I love. That's how the Asgard term, developing sentient species. I don't know. I just found that kind of fitting. You know, it kind of fits the Asgard if you think about it. Think about Thor from Marvel Comics, right?
Right.
Kind of looks down upon humans. Aha, pitiful human. Aha, I'm the mighty Thor. Well, if you
Fortunately for you, I am mighty.
And if you think about the way the Asgard act, you know, the Roswell Grey Asgard that we know and love from SG-1, they act very much the same way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, your primitive weapons, your this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
We are the Asgard. We have such advanced weaponry. I don't know. I've always found that to be a kind of a cool tie-in, even though they're small and unassuming, and they have those blank faces.
Right. They are the Asgard.
Yes, and Thor, if you think about it, he's not boisterous like our Thor, but yeah, he acts almost just like Thor.
He's Thor. Supreme Commander.
Supreme Commander of Asgard. Thank you very much. Who does he say that to? Is that Kinsey? Awesome.
Yeah. Excuse me, Commander Thor? That's Supreme Commander Thor.
Supreme Commander Thor, then he cuts him off and just starts talking.
Yeah. As I was saying.
Because if you think about it, Chris Hemsworth as Thor and Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. Well, no, it's my ship. We're gonna go where I want to go. Oh, yes, of course.
We're all clear about who's in charge here.
Right. Oh, you, of course.
Of course, it's you.
That's just kind of like, hey, O'Neill, I need you to help me find some replicators on my ship. Well, I can't really quite beam.
Right.
It's like, well, you're gonna. Well, no, Star-Lord, I'll let you think you're in charge, but it's really me, Thor. But yes, we're gonna get to see a couple of great things come up in next week's episode. There is more fleshing out of the universe to come. We're not gonna get super heavy back into the constantly fighting the Goa'uld arc, but we do get to see a new Goa'uld enemy come up. We get to see where the invention of sex, drugs, and rock and roll came from. And we're going to get to see why, honey buns, don't you know why they call it this man's army? Anyways, guys, it's been great having you out. Benicio, thank you for once again guest co-hosting on the show here.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.